Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get these 4 pegs put into place to hold this battery down. The way that's going to look is this. Looking here from the top, whoa, get back here on the top view. Looking here from the top view, and I'm going to close this out to make it a little bit more space here. Here on the top view, I want a peg to be right here, one to be right here, and in the same positions here on the other side. Having those 4 pegs there, the pegs are the same height as the battery. Then what we'll end up doing is we'll put a plate across the top of these pegs and put screws in it to hold the battery down. So the battery will be strapped down with some plates here. That does cause you a little bit more of a pain when you're changing out the battery. You have to have a cordless drill handy and take 20 or 30 seconds to remove a couple of screws to get your battery out and back in. But that 20 or 30 seconds to do that will save you a lot of points in a match if your robot flips over and your battery comes out. So it's well worth that extra time. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to put some holes into this top plate for our pegs to be fastened to. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and just start a sketch. And we're going to start it up here on that top plate. So start sketch, click on the top plate, and we're going to put some points out there into place. Remember, that's the way we do holes. We place some points, and then we use the hole command. So the 4 points, I'm going to put them over here where I can see it a little bit better. So over here, kind of in the open, maybe even down here in this open space. So I'm going to put one there, there, and there for my 4 points. Now I'm going to start dimensioning to those points. Now, before I dimension those points, I need to know where my points go. I'm going to use some of the skills here, or some of the tools here in Fusion to do that. So I'm going to use this Inspect tool up here. For this Inspect tool, I want to measure, and it looks like a little ruler. I'm going to measure from this point down to this point. So I'm going to click on this one, click on down to this one, and measure between the two. It gives me 1.457 inches. I'm going to round that off to a nice, easy round figure. I'm going to round that off to 1.5. So let's say that's 1.5 inches. Now the problem is, if I put my peg centered up on that, my peg has a diameter that is not going to work because my peg's going to be right here and take place of where this battery is. So we have to add in the diameter of the battery. So I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to repeat that Inspect tool. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to measure the size of that circle. So I'm going to click on it, the diameter of my peg, scroll down in this list, and nope, there it is, diameter 0.25. So I'm going to add the diameter of that to the measurement I had before, which was 1.5 inches, and that gives me 1.75 inches. So now what that tells me over here on my holes, let me go over to my holes over here, or my points, sorry. I'm going to measure between my points, between here, and make that 1.75 inches. Alright, so that's got me those nice. Now the only other problem I have is these 2 holes don't line up with it. So let's go ahead and put those holes in place. I'm going to be a horizontal and vertical, and make those 2 holes equal to each other and equal to each other here. All right, so now these 2 move, kind of twist a little bit. We're going to go Control Z. We'll worry about that here in a second. All right, so now next, what I'm going to do is I want this peg to set in the center of this space to the center of this space. So I'm going to measure that. I'm going to go Inspect. I'm going to measure now. Instead of measuring the center, I'm going to measure this point on the left here to this point on the left here. It'll be the same measurement as center to center. And I get that as 2.598 inches. I'm going to round that off to a nice round number. Not round it off quite as much as before, but I'm going to round it off to 2.6. So now I'm going to measure between my holes, between here, and measure that in there at 2.6 inches. And that's nice. Now the only problem I'm having is this hole still moves around. So I'm going to go ahead and constrain that hole using horizontal and vertical, and make it horizontally and vertically constrained there. Now, we're looking great. Everything's nice lined up, but notice the problem we have is if I move this, this thing, it's twisting over here to the side. My measurement's staying, this thing's rotating. I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to undo back to where it's straight. There's different solutions you can do for this, but the easiest one I think is to this, and it shows you something new, so I like this. Over here on line type, right now we're doing just a regular line. I want to click on this, I want to draw a construction line. So I'm going to click here. Change that to construction, highlight the construction. I'm going to draw a construction line from the center of this hole, or point, I should say, to the center of that point. And I just drew a nice construction line there. Now all I need to do is make this line horizontal / vertical. So I'm going to go there. That locks that line in, so it's horizontal. Oops. Oh, and I guess the other thing I do need to do now is I need to lock this one in too. So I'm going to come in here and lock that one in. If I can click right. There we go. Now, everything's horizontal, everything's vertical. This thing moves all as one piece. Now what I've got to do is just decide kind of where I want this to be. I want it to be, you know, about in this position here. It doesn't have to be anything perfect, but I do want to use some nice round numbers. So let's go ahead. That's about where I want it, so I drag it there. Let's dimension from here, maybe up to this top surface, and let's see where we're at. It's at 4.8 inches. Let's just go a nice round 5. 5 inches. Looks great. Now let's dimension to this point here, over to the edge. Again, it's 4.96. Hey, you know what? 5 is the nice round number, so let's just go 5. So it's 5 inches down, 5 inches over from that corner. Great. Those are all black. Loving it. We're going to finish our sketch. Now with our sketch finished there, I want to extrude those holes. So I want to make them. So I'm going to just go to the hole command. I'm going to click on those 4 holes. There, 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 and there. The size of my hole, honestly, we could check later, but I know an 1/8 of an inch hole is going to work nice. So I'm just going to come down here and set this to a 1/8. Mine's already set to 1/8, but you can type in 1/8 or 0.25. Either way will work. We want to make sure our hole goes through all and go OK. We do that, and we have 4 nice holes that go through our plate there. So now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and constrain these pegs into place on that hole. To do that, we're going to go ahead and do a joint. We're going to rotate this around underneath. Make sure I find the center of that hole. Notice that little dot's appearing on the center of it, so I'm going to click there. Rotate around and put 1 peg there. So there, that 1 peg's into place. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and with the magic, when you come back, all 4 pegs are going to be in place. So we're going to go OK there. And OK, so now with the magic of video, those 4 pegs are put into place, nicely jointed to the to those holes. All right, so now we need to put this battery into place. Again, in Inventor, I feel this was a little bit easier, but we can make this work. It's just making things happen here. So I'm going to go to join again. What I really want is I want the middle point of this flat spot, the bottom surface of it, to go to the tangent point of this hole. In Inventor, we can just go to a tangent point. Here in Fusion, we cannot do that, but there's a little bit of a workaround. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to rotate this down. It's going to be a little bit hard to see this bottom surface. What I might do first off is I'm going to drag this battery up a ways, so it's a little bit easier to get to. So now I'm going to go joint again. I'm going to rotate this around so I can get to this bottom surface nicely. This bottom surface is highlighted, and then I want that midpoint right there. So I'm going to click there, and I want it to go to the center bottom of this hole right to there. Now, however, that has it overlapping, so I want it to go in this direction, and I'm just going to offset it, and I'll offset it that radius, which is 0.125, and go OK. And that has that in a position nicely. We'll go to the top view here and take a look. See if we did a good job on our holes here. Look how nicely those are centered there, touching there tangentially. That's good. On this side, there's a little bit of a space there, which, you know, honestly is okay. It's not enough that this is going to slide past it. If you wanted to tighten that up a little bit on your final design of your robot when you actually design it next year, you could. But honestly, that's really okay. So we're going to go ahead and go with that. Okay, so now we're going to start looking at some of the drive. To start with, we're just going to put some mounts down on the bottom of the robot for some drive. We're going to do a couple different things with drive. We're going to do one motor that's direct drive and one motor that is chain drive, and then we're going to do 2 just freewheeling wheels. You would never do this on an actual robot, but I just want to show you the different options of how to do some different types of drive. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to need is in channels. So we're going to go to channels. We're going to insert in a 1.5 channel. I want that 1.5 channel. Let me pull it down here where we can see it a little bit better. I want it spun, so it's going to set and go to the bottom side of this other rail that we have in there. So right there, 90 degrees in that direction, and go OK. All right. So this one, we're going to fasten it to the underneath side of the robot to this hole here. So to do that, we're going to go assemble, or not assemble, we're going to go joint. We're going to go joint here to the center of that hole to the underneath side right there. And OK on that. So right there, that's a nice piece. That's where we're going to put this, these next parts on. So let's go ahead and do that. Our next parts are, we need to have the axle is going to go right through here that your wheel is going to set on. And the axle just doesn't go in this great big old hole. You have to have a bearing there for it. So we're going to go back to our main folder and go down to our bearings folder. A lot of different bearings here. We're going to go down to the flanged bearing 0.25. That's a 1/4 inch flange bearing. So flange bearing 0.25, pull it in. On this bearing, again, I'll pull it down here where we can see a little bit better. One bearing is going to go on this side and one bearing is going to go on the other. This little flat flange sets there flush on that. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this 90 degrees in this direction, right like so. And now we're going to put this bearing into place. I'm going to spin it around here to the back side. Now picking your points on this is a little bit tricky, but not too bad. There's a lot of different little surfaces here. There's a little groove cut into it. So what we want to do is we're going to go joint. I want to pick this surface here, so I can either pick it here or here. Either one doesn't matter as long as we have that center point showing up. But we don't want to go to here. It'll be on the wrong surface. So either one of those two circles, click, that center point shows up. That point we're going to line up with. I'm going to zoom back out, spin this around. And that one's going to line up with this large hole here on the outside. Let's see what that looks like. We're going to go OK there. And there, if I can rotate this, there is a nice bearing sitting there just perfectly to that flange. We're going to do another bearing, exactly that mirror image of it, over here on this side. So again, we're going to pull in another bearing. This one I have to spin around. I'm going to zoom in there a little bit so I can see. We're going to spin it around a little bit in, not that direction. Come on, where's my other grip? There it is. In this direction at 90 degrees. There, and OK. All right. So now we're going to put that one into place. So again, we're going to mate just the same, or joint just the same. The center there. Joined to the center here. And throw that in there. All right. That looks great. We have two bearings sitting there just perfectly, sitting there into place. Okay. So from there, now we need an axle that actually goes into that hole. So to do that, we're going to come up here to the main folder. We're going to go down to our shafts folder, shafts folder here. The length of the shaft is going to work, I think, pretty well for us. It's going to be a little bit longer than we need, but it'll be all right. We're going to do that 4.25 shafts. So we're going to pull it in. We want it rotated down so it's going to actually go through those two holes. So I'm going to rotate it here on this 90 degrees, just like that, and go OK. All right. So now I want that shaft to line up with the hole. I actually want this end of the shaft to set flush with this end, but I want to offset out here an extra 1/2 inch. So let me show you how to do that. So we're going to go Assemble. I'm going to come down here on this end of my shaft, get the center point of that shaft there, come back up to this hole, and here you want it to the right surface. I know this circle is the right surface, this one's the right surface, and I believe these two are the right surface. I just go ahead to the outside one. So I want that center point, click there, moves my shaft into place, and now, we haven't really talked about this one, but notice these, we can grab this and drag it out. And I need to move it out there 0.5 inches. Now, depending on how you did yours, it might be 0.5 or minus 0.5. You just have to pay attention to that. So I'm going to go 0.5 there, and OK. All right. So there, I have that into place, looking nice. We're actually going to stop there on this portion of it, because actually a couple of the parts we need for this are not in your folders. I'm going to have to get those. I'm going to go ahead and get those downloaded for you, and then just make a place where you can download those. So that's got that. The next one that I think we can get to real quickly is our other one that we're going to do, direct drive. We just need to bring in a motor mount. So we're going to come up here to our main list and go down to motor mounts. We're going to drag in this motor mount. Okay, this one is weird. It sets at a weird angle for whatever reason. It's about a 45-degree angle, but it's not. So this is going to take a little bit of playing around with to get this set to the right angle. And we're probably going to run out of video time before we do that. We're going to come up here to the top view, and we're going to rotate this using these angles here and trying to get that